In today's episode,
On Rewriting, Essential Strategies to Turn a Draft into a Masterpiece by Odasnac and Musa Wababai.
Okay, let's unpack this. That moment, you've just typed the last word of your first draft. There's this huge feeling of accomplishment, right?
Ooh, yeah. Massive.
But then this little voice creeps in. Okay, now what? That beautiful, messy creation of yours suddenly needs a new kind of attention.
It really does.
And that's precisely what we're diving into today. Forget just fixing typos. We're talking about truly reimagining what you've got, transforming that initial burst of creativity into something really powerful and, well, readable.
What's fascinating is that immediate shift, isn't it?
Yeah.
From the pure joy of just getting it down to the more nuanced work of refining and shaping, it's a critical turning point for every writer.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we're tackling a resource that one of you, our amazing listeners, sent in, excerpts from onrewriting.md by Odasnac and Musa Wababai.
Ah, interesting. Listener submitted.
Yeah. Think of us as exploring this together, pulling out the crucial strategies that can help you, yes, you listening, really get to grips with rewriting.
So what's the mission then?
Our mission today, to help you see your first draft, not as the finish line, but as the exciting starting point for crafting a true masterpiece.
That's a great way to frame it. Moving beyond just proofreading to actually seeing the work with fresh eyes, thinking about its deeper potential.
That's the core of it. And the folks behind on rewriting.md immediately hit on this by comparing that first draft to a playful playground. I really like this idea.
A playground, okay.
Yeah, they talk about it being a space where you can just have fun, explore those initial ideas, and let your imagination run wild without worrying about perfection.
Right, like no judgment.
Exactly. Think about those really out there ideas you might have jotted down that poem about a talking cat astronaut, for instance. That's pure playground energy.
Huh. Okay, I get it. What's so valuable about that initial playground phase is the sheer freedom to experiment, to take risks.
Mm.
It's about getting those raw ideas down without the immediate inner critic chiming in.
Yeah, it's about letting go of needing everything to be perfect from the outset and really embracing the initial mess. The glorious mess.
The source even points out that humor in that first draft, even if it's just for your own amusement, can be incredibly beneficial.
How so?
It keeps things light, apparently, and can actually lead to some surprisingly brilliant ideas sometimes. So the key thing to remember here is to really see that first draft as a time for playful exploration and getting those initial thoughts onto paper. No pressure.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that initial uninhibited approach gives you a wealth of material to then evaluate more critically later on.
Exactly.
It's much easier to sculpt something compelling when you have a substantial amount of raw clay to work with, isn't it?
Totally. Now, after all that fun on the playground, how do you start to figure out what makes your story truly special?
The next step.
Our source introduces this concept of your story's secret sauce.
Secret sauce, intriguing.
And what are the key ingredients in this recipe? Character depth and plot twists. Okay, the essentials. What's so interesting about focusing on these two elements is how they interact. Character depth isn't just about describing someone's appearance, obviously.
Right. It's deeper.
It's about delving into their motivations, their history, their inner conflicts, what really makes them tick.
Exactly. They give this great example, a librarian who has this secret passion for skydiving.
Oh, I like that. Immediately interesting.
Right. It immediately sparks their interest, doesn't it? It adds layers to someone you might initially see as quite ordinary. It's what makes them stick in your mind.
Definitely creates intrigue.
And then we have plot twists, those unexpected turns that completely grab the reader's attention. The source highlights foreshadowing as a really effective way to pull these off.
Foreshadowing. Crucial. Because it allows for those surprising moments to feel organic and earned, right?
Yeah, earned is a good word.
It's not about a random event coming out of nowhere. It's about planting subtle clues earlier in the narrative. Clues the reader might not consciously register at the time, but will make sense in retrospect.
Like puzzle pieces clicking into place.
Exactly. That classic example of the detective turning out to be the villain works so well when those subtle hints have been woven in carefully.
Absolutely. And ultimately, this secret sauce, the blend of those well-developed characters and those clever twists, it's all about making the audience feel something.
That emotional connection.
Whether it's joy, sadness, suspense, that emotional connection is what makes a story truly resonate. So the Key to remember here is to really think about how you can build those deep, intriguing characters and then throw in plot twists that will keep your readers guessing and emotionally invested.
This naturally leads us to the next phase then.
Yeah.
You've generated all these initial ideas, you've started to build these characters and plots. How do we begin to make sense of it all?
Good question.
This is where the art of distillation comes into play.
Exactly. The source uses this fantastic analogy of being in a crowded, noisy room and trying to pick out that one really valuable piece of information.
I can picture that.
It's about sifting through all the background noise to find those key insights. They even use the example of scrolling through social media. You've got a post about healthy eating right next to a silly cat meme. How do you find the core message in all of that?
The core of distillation, is identifying the essence.
Yeah.
What is the central idea you're trying to communicate?
Right.
The kale post might be about prioritizing health. The cat meme about finding moments of lightheartedness, maybe.
Yeah.
It's about extracting those fundamental meanings.
And I really liked the humorous example they used of Uncle Bob's long, rambling stories.
We all know an Uncle Bob.
Totally. You could easily just tune them out, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes there's this little nugget of wisdom buried in there about perseverance or appreciating the simple things.
Hidden gems.
Exactly. It's about filtering out the unnecessary details and finding those valuable insights. The source offers some really practical ways to do this, like simply jotting down all your ideas as they come and then going back to review them later.
Just getting them down first.
Yeah. They even use the image of ideas being like a garden. Some things are weeds, and others are beautiful flowers that you need to nurture.
That's a very evocative image.
Uh-huh.
It really highlights the need to nurture the promising ideas and, maybe more importantly, to be willing to discard those that don't serve your story's purpose.
Letting go can be hard.
It is, but it's a process of focusing and refining. So the crucial thing to take away is to actively learn how to identify and extract the most important ideas from that initial burst of creativity to find the central message within all the noise.
Okay, so you've got your draft, you're starting to see the potential, but you know it needs more work.
This is where feedback comes in.
Ah, yes. Feedback.
And our source has a really insightful way of looking at this. Your readers are treasure maps.
Ooh, I like that metaphor. A treasure map. That's a powerful reframe, isn't it?
It really is.
It encourages us to see feedback not as a personal attack, which it can sometimes feel like.
But as a valuable guide that can lead us to significant improvements in our work. It suggests that our readers hold the clues to making our writing better.
Exactly. It emphasizes that asking for feedback isn't just a polite thing to do. It's absolutely vital for growth. They compare it to a lighthouse, helping you steer clear of the dangerous rocks of, bad writing.
A guiding light.
Yeah.
But then comes the tricky part, right? How do you actually decipher that feedback?
Yeah.
Sometimes it can feel like trying to understand those cryptic clues on a treasure map.
Yeah, true. The key, according to the source, is to look for recurring patterns and themes.
Okay, patterns.
If multiple readers point out the same issue, it's a strong signal that something needs your attention. The example they use of a character feeling unrelatable highlights this perfectly. If several people struggle to connect with that character, it's a clear area that needs development.
Makes sense. It's not just one person's opinion then.
Exactly. And it's so important to be able to tell the difference between constructive criticism, which is specific and gives you actionable things to work on, and just someone's personal preference.
That's a crucial distinction.
The source gives a great example of constructive feedback.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, I didn't like this part, a helpful reader might say, the pacing felt a bit slow in this section. Perhaps consider tightening the dialogue to move things along.
See, that's useful. Specific. Actionable.
Right. That gives you something concrete to address. So the crucial takeaway here is to really value feedback, learn how to interpret it effectively, and see it as an opportunity, to make your work even stronger.
Building on this idea of utilizing external perspectives, we now have a fantastic array of tools available to us that can further assist in this refinement process.
Oh yeah, the tech side.
Our source aptly refers to them as your new best friends, the editing tools.
I love that. It makes them sound so much more approachable, doesn't it? Less intimidating. They talk about AI editing tools like Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid as being like that incredibly detail-oriented friend who always catches your typos and suggests smoother ways to phrase things.
The eagle-eyed friend.
Yeah. It's almost like having a personal proofreader on call.
And what's particularly useful about these AI tools is their ability to go beyond just basic grammar and spelling checks. They can offer valuable suggestions on style, clarity, and even help you identify potential issues like um, passive voice or overly complex sentences.
Things you might totally miss yourself.
Exactly. And then there are the AI rewriting tools like Quillbot and WordTune.
Okay, how are they different?
Well, they describe these as being almost like a magic wand that can transform your sentences and give you fresh perspectives on how to express your ideas. You put in your text and suddenly you have all these different options to consider.
Like brainstorming sentence structures.
Precisely. These tools can be especially helpful when you're feeling stuck or want to explore different ways of phrasing something that isn't quite working. They can offer a range of alternatives that you might not have thought of yourself.
That sounds really useful for breaking through writer's block sometimes.
It can be. And finally, they bring up text-to-speech, or TTS, tools like Natural Reader and Google TTS.
Ah, listening back.
Yes. The idea of actually hearing your writing read back to you is so powerful. It's like getting a completely different sense of your work.
I've heard writers swear by this.
Me too. Hearing your words spoken aloud can really highlight awkward phrasing, repetitive language, and those spots where the rhythm just feels off.
The clinky bits.
Clunky bits, exactly. It engages a different part of your brain and can reveal issues that your eyes might have simply skipped over while reading. So the key thing to remember here is to really embrace these editing tools, see them as helpful collaborators in your writing process, and use them to polish your prose and explore new ways to express your ideas.
Makes sense. Okay, moving into our next chapter, we're going to delve deeper into the art of refining your work through sound and structure, starting with something that might seem incredibly simple, but is surprisingly effective. Reading aloud. The magical spell of sound.
The term magical really captures the impact of this technique, I think. Reading aloud shifts your focus from the visual aspect of your writing to the auditory experience, allowing you to connect with your words in a completely new way.
Exactly. The source uses this really funny analogy of a clumsy sentence being like a cat trying to cram itself into a box that's way too small.
Ah, this is vivid.
You just hear the awkwardness when you say it out loud, don't you? And they bring in the tech, again, mentioning 11 Labs Reader as a TTS tool that can even read your work back to you in a really natural-sounding voice.
Which makes this valuable technique even more accessible, right? You don't even have to do the reading yourself if you don't want to.
Yeah.
You can listen passively while doing other things and still pick up on areas where the pacing feels uneven, the word choice is clunky, or the overall flow could be improved.
Finding those rough patches. And it's not just about catching the technical stuff, is it? It's also about uncovering the emotional nuances within your story.
Oh, absolutely.
You might hear a moment of tenderness or tension that really resonates when you hear it spoken in a way you didn't quite catch just reading it silently.
You feel the rhythm of the emotion. So the crucial takeaway here is that reading your work aloud, or using TTS, provides this invaluable auditory feedback that can help you pinpoint areas that really need some attention.
Definitely something to try if you haven't already.
Building on the idea of structure, our next section focuses on the power of scenes, crafting moments that matter.
Scenes are described as being like the individual pieces of a puzzle that come together to form the bigger picture of your story. I really like that.
It's a good analogy. Each one has its own important role to play.
And the source emphasizes their power to evoke emotions and convey meaning through vivid detail, even without relying heavily on dialogue.
Right, setting the mood.
They use the example of a deserted beach to immediately create a feeling of loneliness or isolation without anyone saying a word.
The emphasis on sensory details is absolutely key to effective scene setting. By engaging the reader's senses, what they see, hear, smell, touch, you can create a much more immersive and emotionally resonant experience.
Bringing it to life.
Yeah. The example of a faded photograph conveying a deep sense of sorrow is a great illustration of this. It's not just a photo, it's the feeling it evokes through description.
And then there's the critical element of pacing within those scenes. You wouldn't describe a high-speed chase with long, rambling sentences, right?
Probably not. The rhythm needs to match the action. Short, punchy sentences for action, maybe longer, more flowing ones for reflection.
Exactly. And importantly, the source points out that every single scene should serve a purpose.
No filler.
No filler. It needs to move the plot forward, reveal something important about a character, or build tension. Even a seemingly ordinary moment, like a meal between characters, can be packed with subtext and meaning if crafted well.
That's right. Every scene should contribute meaningfully to the overall narrative. It shouldn't just be there taking up space.
Right.
And the mention of unexpected twists within scenes highlights the opportunity to keep your readers engaged and surprised, even within the smaller moments of your story.
Keep them guessing.
Yeah.
So the key thing to take away is to thoughtfully craft each scene with a keen eye for detail, pacing, and a clear purpose to create truly impactful moments for your reader.
Well put. This leads perfectly into our next point, which is all about creating those vivid mental pictures with your words. Show, don't tell. The magic of imagery.
Ah, the classic advice. Show, don't tell.
Such a fundamental principle of strong writing, isn't it? Instead of simply stating facts or telling the reader how to feel, you use descriptive language to create vivid images in their minds, allowing them to experience the story more directly.
Yeah, pull them in.
The source uses the delightful example of freshly baked cookies to illustrate this.
Cookies. Instead of just saying the cookie smelled good, you describe that warm, buttery aroma with hints of vanilla that makes your mouth water. It's so much more evocative and engaging, right?
Instantly. They also talk about how imagery really invites readers into the world you've created and helps them connect emotionally with the story.
Like being there.
Think about describing vibrant tulips swaying in the breeze that creates a much stronger and more memorable image than simply saying the flowers were colorful.
Definitely. And it's not just about these grand, dramatic descriptions either. Often it's the small, everyday details that can be incredibly effective in setting a mood or helping the reader connect emotionally with a character or situation.
Simple things work. That simple description of rain pattering against a window pane can instantly create a sense of melancholy or maybe coziness, depending on the context.
It grounds the scene. And the skillful use of metaphors and similes can really elevate your imagery, adding layers of meaning and making your writing more memorable.
Good point.
The example of a smile being like a beacon of light in a stormy sea is so powerful and creates a much stronger impact than just saying someone smiled happily.
It adds that extra dimension. So the key takeaway here is to really focus on using vivid and sensory-rich imagery to create those immersive experiences and evoke genuine emotions in your reader. Don't just tell them, show them.
Wise words. Our final point in this chapter addresses the equally important skill of knowing when to remove elements from your writing. Cutting loose, embracing the art of elimination.
Ah, the kill your darlings part. This can be a really tough one for writers, can't it?
Oh, definitely. You've put so much effort into crafting your words. Maybe you love a particular phrase or paragraph, and the thought of deleting it can feel almost painful.
It really can. But the source frames it as embracing simplicity and getting rid of unnecessary clutter, using the relatable analogy of a cluttered room versus a tidy and organized one. Which feels better?
The tidy one, usually.
Exactly. The saying you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs is particularly relevant here. Sometimes you have to be willing to sacrifice parts of your draft, even if you're fond of them, for the overall strength and clarity of the story.
It's about the bigger picture.
It is. It's about prioritizing what truly serves the narrative.
They talk about the importance of eliminating physical clutter, that drawer full of random things we all have, but also digital clutter, those unused apps and old files on your computer.
Decluttering life to declutter writing.
Kind of. And then they even extend it to emotional and mental clutter, being willing to say no to commitments to free up your time and energy for what truly matters, like your writing.
That's a big one, saying no.
Yeah. I really liked the analogy of the overfilled plate at a party. Sometimes you just have to take some things off to be able to actually enjoy the meal. You can't do everything.
That's a great visual. This broader understanding of elimination is so valuable. It's not just about the words on the page. It's about creating space in your life, both physically and mentally, for your writing to flourish.
Creating space. I like that.
So the crucial thing to remember is to learn to simplify, to create room for what truly matters by being willing to eliminate unnecessary elements, whether they're sentences, paragraphs, entire scenes maybe, or even commitments that are draining your creative energy.
Be ruthless but smart about it. Okay, we now move into our final chapter, the rewriting ritual and beyond. Starting with the encouraging idea of reviving your work, the rewriting ritual.
This section emphasizes the importance of approaching rewriting not as a chore, which it can easily become,
Oh, yeah.
but as a deliberate and intentional process. It's about establishing a routine that helps you reconnect with your work with fresh eyes and renewed energy, especially when you feel like you've hit a wall.
Exactly. They frame it as cozy ceremony for breathing new life into your writing, almost like watering a plant to help it grow.
A ceremony, not a sentence.
Right. It's about so much more than just fixing errors. They suggest setting aside a specific time and place, being consistent with your rewriting sessions, even if it's just for a focused 30-minute block.
Consistency is key.
And using tools you enjoy, like your favorite pen or a particular writing app, making it pleasant.
The focus on bringing a playful spirit and a sense of curiosity to your rewriting is also really important, I think. Approaching your work like a treasure hunt.
Looking for the gold?
Asking yourself, why does this feel a little off? And even allowing yourself to laugh at an awkward sentence can make the whole process much more enjoyable and ultimately more productive, less painful.
Yeah, don't take it too seriously all the time. And they really stress the importance of taking a step back and acknowledging your progress, no matter how small it might seem.
Celebrating the small wins.
Giving yourself that little bit of recognition, that pat on the back, can make a big difference in keeping your motivation levels up. So the key takeaway is to establish this consistent and enjoyable rewriting ritual to not only renew your motivation, but also to gain a fresh and more objective perspective on your work.
Makes a lot of sense. Our penultimate point focuses on the critical stage of bringing it all together, the final touches.
The home stretch. This is described as being on the final lap, emphasizing the impact that those seemingly small details can have, like the perfect sprinkles on a cupcake.
Sprinkles matter.
They really do. They point out how even a misplaced comma or a slightly awkward sentence can be like a little pebble in your shoe, a minor annoyance that can really take away from the overall experience for the reader.
It jolts them out of the story. Attention to detail at this stage is absolutely crucial. It's about ensuring that your intended meaning comes across clearly and that the reading experience is as smooth and engaging as possible.
Getting it just right.
The slightly humorous example of imagining a dog chasing the car and then realizing you've written dog chasing its car with the wrong itses really highlights the importance of those final proofreads.
Oh, the classic. It's.
Gotta watch those.
You really do. And they circle back to the idea of rhythm and flow, comparing it to a beautifully composed piece of music or a gently flowing stream.
Nice imagery. Reading your work aloud one last time is so valuable for catching any sentences that feel clunky or out of sync. They also highlight the power of precise word choice. Using a word like enormous instead of just very big can add so much more impact.
Choosing the right word.
Exactly. And finally, they suggest sharing your work with a few trusted readers for one last fresh pair of eyes, and of course, celebrating all your hard work once it's done.
Don't forget the celebration. The key takeaway here is to pay meticulous attention to those final details to ensure a polished and truly engaging piece of writing.
Absolutely. Our final point in this deep dive is about taking a moment to appreciate celebrating the journey from writer to author.
This is such a wonderful way to think about it, isn't it? The whole process.
Literally is.
They frame the entire writing process, with all its ups and downs, its frustrations and breakthroughs, as an incredible journey, like a winding road through a dense forest.
Lots of twists and turns.
For sure. They acknowledge that rewriting can sometimes feel like a daunting task, like climbing a steep mountain.
It can feel like that.
But the sense of accomplishment and the view from the top are absolutely worth it.
The analogy of seeing your initial draft as a rough sketch and the rewriting process as the act of sculpting is so powerful too.
Yeah, shaping it.
It really emphasizes the transformative nature of the work you do in revision. It's about uncovering the true potential that lies within your initial ideas, chiseling away until the form emerges.
And they really stress that it's often during this rewriting phase that you truly discover your unique voice as a writer and add real depth to your story.
Finding your voice through the work.
Exactly. It's about taking pride in the growth you've experienced throughout the process, seeing that first draft not as something flawed or embarrassing, but as a crucial step in your learning.
Every draft teaches you something.
Yeah. They even use the beautiful metaphor of a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly to illustrate that profound change. And ultimately, it's about savoring the joy of holding that finished piece of work in your hands, whether it's a story, an article, a book, and truly celebrating what you've accomplished.
That moment is special. The final takeaway is to really appreciate and celebrate the entire writing and rewriting process as a significant journey of growth and transformation into the author you're becoming.
Well said. So to bring our deep dive to a close, the big message is that rewriting isn't just about fixing mistakes, is it?
Not at all. It's an absolutely essential and transformative stage in the entire writing journey. It provides fantastic opportunities for playful exploration in the early drafts, for deep discovery as you refine your characters and plot, and for meticulous polishing as you bring your prose to its final form.
Exactly. And we've explored so many incredibly valuable techniques today, from the simple yet powerful act of reading your work aloud,
So important.
to the crucial importance of seeking out and thoughtfully considering feedback, to embracing those incredibly helpful editing tools,
Your new best friends.
and to establishing a consistent and inspiring rewriting ritual that works for you.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, our listener. Now that you've explored these strategies and gained these insights, what new creative territories will you uncover in your next draft?
Ooh, good question.
And what truly remarkable masterpiece is waiting to be revealed within your work? We encourage you to approach the rewrite not as a process of correction, but as a thrilling and exciting new phase of creation.
You've listened to our latest episode of Right Here, Right Now,